Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. It's 6:30 p.m. and this is a meeting of the advisory committee. First up on our agenda, we have our town moderator, Doug Story, to present a very, very, very bare bones, simple budget. So I'm not even going to share the spreadsheet because you can just talk us through your $50 request.
Yeah, I just request $50. There's an annual fee every year to join the Mass Moderators Association. And then when they have a meeting, there's also a meeting fee. That $50 covers those two items. I don't have any other expenses. Last year we did have, we did quite a bit of prep to prepare the meeting hall for the meeting with the COVID situation, which we will be in the same situation this year. But there really wasn't any expenses from my end. I think there probably is some expense on the Bolton Access TV end for that, which certainly I support because they did a great job helping us have 3 different locations, which we intend to hopefully do again this year. That's it.
Great. So again, that's a $50 request. That's been the traditional request for our moderator. Does anybody on advisory have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself. I don't think so. All right. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve the moderator budget?
I make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Great. That was Bob seconding it. And a quick roll call. Anne. Yes, I see you. Bob.
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Omid.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay. Thank you, Doug Story, and we'll look forward to this year's town meeting.
I will too.
Actually, sorry, quick question. Do you think you'll be organizing like a pre-town meeting session with the Board of Selectmen and advisory?
I think am I right that we skipped it last year? And I think it would be a good idea to do it. I think we got the Zoom thing down pretty well. So I would like it if we could do that as we've done in years past, but probably through a Zoom session.
Yeah.
And if there is a candidate, any contested elections that come out of the caucus, then we would also try and do a candidates night as well.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, so next up on our agenda, we're going to hear from the Board of Assessors regarding their budget. And what I'll do is if there's anybody that wants to kind of speak ahead of time, we can do that. And then let me know when you want me to share my screen with your actual budget on it. And I can do that as well. So who did we? Oh, there we go. I was going to say, did we lose you? There you are. Do you want to just give a quick overview of what we're looking at for the Board of Assessors this year?
Okay.
Jeff, can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you fine. I just didn't know if you were talking to me or talking to which board member you were talking to.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand you were. I can see you perfectly, but I didn't know who you were talking to. That's all. I apologize.
Yes. So are you able to just give a quick overview, or do you want me to share my screen so we can all be looking at the numbers together?
I think if we can just go through the numbers this shouldn't take long. I would prefer just to go through the numbers, but it's certainly your prerogative which way you want to go.
Okay, I will do that.
If you can't put it up, we can certainly do it without it, but it'd be easier if we all saw it.
Yeah, you know what? Nanachka, I don't know if you're able to share because for some reason my computer, this has never happened before, but it's not letting me share any files right now.
I can't Zoom and access Splashtop at the same time.
Okay, well then, you know what I can do is I can just,
We've all seen it.
yeah, we've all got it, and I can just talk us through really quickly
Yeah.
as we go. All right, sorry about that. I don't know why my computer's not letting me share the screen. All right, so the Board of Assessors, I think the top two items are stipend and wages, which year over year is a 1.5% increase. And so the request for FY22 is, and Nanachka, if you can just confirm that I'm giving the right numbers when I do this, the total request for stipend and wages for FY22 is $49,254.
I'm not sure if Kelly, is that what you have? I know you gave me an
No,
update one, and I'm not sure I actually printed out the right one.
For the salary, there's a 1 day in there. So it brings it up to 47,754. Can you see this?
Of
This is-
course.
Can you see that?
No.
Oh, is it working? Oh, sorry. I thought it would work. But when I got this from whoever, so it had the stipend and then 1 day, and the COLA is not added yet, of course, because hasn't had the meeting. But so the total would be 48,753.
0.52.
Nanachka, that looks like it's lower than the number we have.
I had 48,254.
Yep.
Okay. Let's roll all different numbers.
So the number is 48,254, not the two previous ones.
Well, what you're missing is that 1 day stipend.
The one
it's
day, they
right.
added 1 day, which
You've got to add that 1 day to make it the 48,753.
So
can
that's
add
the amount we would be approving or not, right?
Yes, you would be approving the 48,753 figure.
and that's what the stipend.
Okay. So
I
Nanachka,
have the budget spreadsheet here. Would it help if I share my screen?
yeah, if you can share yours, that'd be great, Bob.
Let's see if this works. Everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Make it a little bigger if you can, Bob, just. Okay.
There we go. Board of Assessors 141. Yep. Okay, so then we would be changing that 48,254 to, what was it, 48,753?
That is correct, sir, yes.
You got that, Nanachka? Okay. All right, so then if you want to just go down the rest of the lines, starting with purchase of services, which looks like it's down 9% over last year. And either Kelly or Jeff, you feel free to handle.
We're starting well, let me back up. We have contracts with RRG, that's the main company that supplies, that's who David works for, but we contract them on a 3-year basis. The company we haven't actually signed a contract, but the company gave us a number for 2022, and that's the number that you see there, 88,496.
It's down because we don't have training.
That's correct.
Yep. Okay.
Kelly is trained.
So then just quickly, the next line that says training, that's for what?
That's for the Assessors Association. That's to
Got
keep
it.
my accreditation. Mhm.
She has to take classes once a year to stay qualified. That's what that second figure is for.
Yep. Okay, software support is being a level funded request.
Mhm.
And just remind us, since we have 3 new members of the advisory committee, what is covered by software support versus GIS, which is at the bottom of your budget?
Kelly, you want to take that one?
Yes, so we have the program, the Tyler program, which is our real estate. We have Vadar, which is our tax abatement module, and RRC is our personal property.
Okay,
So that's our software support.
And
That's
all
right.
those are separate from GIS.
Yes,
Yes.
Yep.
Correct.
GIS is mapping,
It's the mapping.
that's cartographics. Yep.
right?
okay, supplies.
Not nominal.
It's minimal.
And then in-state travel, dues. Oh yeah, so dues, how is dues different than the membership stuff for 5201? That it's because what's covered above is training and dues is something different?
Yes,
Yeah,
dues are what we pay Worcester County Assessors Association, and then we pay Mass Assessors Association of Officers. So we belong to those 2 different associations for assessors, the 4 of
Okay.
us. Mhm. And that's what's covered in that.
Yep, and then meetings at 150. That
Those are
covered,
training, yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
And then GIS, yeah, I think somebody mentioned that's the main mapping software that you use for all of the valuations.
Mhm.
And there are 2 other committees that use the GIS as well.
Yeah, so we only pay a portion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. So anybody have questions for our Board of Assessors while they're here?
Yeah, I
Just ask
noticed,
a,
Go
can I ask
ahead.
a quick question on GIS? So it looks like it's been increasing at quite a rate over the last few years. It almost doubled in 21. It went up by over 25%. Is that typical?
Yes, because they every year they bring in a new level or a new tier, and they're adding, and this is from all the departments that use it, not just the assessors. So it kind of gets split. So you have yeah, they just, all I know is like they do layers, and so every year the more layers they do, the more that they're able to do, the more it costs us.
Do we have any say in that, or it's just they charge us a fee and we pay it?
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires our mapping program to be at certain levels. They tell us. And so that's the level at which we're maintaining it. And we have things like a lot of lot splits, subdivisions, changes in flood zone, a lot of stuff going on. So if there's nothing we can do in terms of what we are required to maintain by the Commonwealth in order to maintain our accreditation.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question, if Commonwealth requires certain level, do they have grants for towns to support that level? Or has
No.
anyone-
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts tells us what to do all the time and hardly ever sends any checks.
Has anyone looked into it if they have any program to support it?
I know there isn't anything for the assessors, but planning maybe, or I'm trying to think of the other departments that use it.
Conservation.
Conservation, thank you. Yeah, they might, and I think they've probably already have. But yeah, that's something for them. But on our end, what we have to keep, this is what we,
Hey,
Along those lines, I noticed that the software support jumped by a factor of 5 between the 2020 and 2021 budget.
we have a new program.
Okay.
RRC is our new program that came in for personal property. Yep.
We used to do personal property in-house, and we are subbing that out this year. And that's the reason for that increase.
Yeah.
Any other
Art.
questions? Ninotchka, I don't know if you're on mute, but I just wanted to make sure that you were able to capture the change in the wages to 48753.
Yes, so 499 increase overall, right?
Correct.
All right, so does anyone want to make a motion on the Board of Assessors budget?
I'll move we pass the Board of Assessors budget at what, 49,000 or so?
Well, no, I
Oh,
think,
sorry, yeah, 152, 153.
I think it'll be 152, 688.
okay, so why don't we, yeah, we'll 152, 688, but Ninotchka can confirm the math, but we know it's going to jump by a little bit. All right, so Craig made the motion. Somebody want to second it?
I'll second. Ann,
Okay, and Bob, would you mind stopping your screen share just for a minute until we get to the next set of budgets? Thank you. All right, so roll call. Bill.
Aye.
Ann.
aye.
Omid. Omid. Oh, he just muted himself. Bob.
Aye.
Craig.
Aye.
All right, well, that's it. Omid, did you just say aye? It sounded like maybe you cut in.
I'm trying to, yes.
Yes, okay, great. And I'm a yes as well. All right, thank you.
Stupid.
Thank you very much, Board of
Does
Assessors.
it work now? Can you
Kelly.
hear me? Yes. My
Yeah, we
answer
heard-
is yes.
We heard you, yep.
Great, thanks.
Thank you
I just-
all.
Thank
I
you
just-
for your consideration. Pleased that we could do this expeditiously. Thank you.
This is Charlotte. I just want to say that you all look marvelous.
Ditto. All right,
Thank you guys.
very
See you in a
much.
year.
see you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very
Take care.
much, everybody.
You. All right, so next up, we have our town clerk, Pam Powell. And Pam, do you want Bob to share his screen with your budgets on them right away, or was there anything you wanted to discuss first before we get into the
Nope.
numbers?
No,
Okay.
that's fine. However you want to do it.
Bob, do you mind? Thank you for backing me up here.
Yep, no problem. Let me see here. Okay, how's that?
And we make it bigger.
Possibly.
It's got to be an easy way to do this.
I think if you go, whoops, I think if you go to view, you might be able to zoom in. Yeah. If you go to view. Or actually, you know what? Down at the very bottom, is there a little magnifying? Yep, right there. Try to do the plus sign.
I think we're stuck with this.
Sorry,
size.
Ann. We'll read out the numbers if you have trouble.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm ready for some new glasses, clearly.
All right. So Pam, do you just want to walk us through your budgets? Can you see?
Sure. Some of the numbers are a little different. I had this printout from November, but anyway, salary, it looks like it's 72036.
Yep.
Now, is that with the COLA, Ninotchka?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then the stipend of 1,000. And then the wages have now gone up 32,496.
Yes.
Yep.
And then, so purchase of service is our PO box, 278, so for $175 a year. And then the software support still remains at 1,700. This is for when we do our bylaw supplements after a town meeting. It goes to the company general code and they put it into the whole online product that we have on the website and whatnot. And they recommend that we budget this amount of money. Now this year, fortunately, we only spent $700. So a bunch of that'll go back. And I don't think there are that many bylaw changes coming up for next year's town meeting. So it could be less than that. But that's what they recommend we budget. What's that?
Yeah. I think it was Omid's computer doing like that.
And then web services is the next one, is 1,200, and it's actually 1,195 to maintain the web access to the bylaws.
Okay.
All right. Supplies 350. Dues and membership, that's kind of a steady thing of 150. That's for both Jen and I to be part of the Massachusetts Town Clerks Association. Oh, and the Worcester County Clerks Association. And then meeting expense, I kept it at 2,300. This year we have spent nothing. So you'll be getting that chunk back. We may be going to Plymouth in June. That's still up in the air, so we don't know.
Okay.
Any questions on that one, 161?
I don't have any. Anybody else have any?
Not me.
No.
Great. Moving right
righty.
along to elections.
Okay, elections, 162. This is the year that it's less because we don't have as many elections. We will have a town election spring of 22, and then the fall of 22. Do I have that right? That doesn't sound right. We'll have a state election. So it's really just one state election, 22, and then the annual. So, the wages are there, 2565, purchase of service 2670, and then supplies 400 usually for each election. So that totals about 6,035.
Yep.
Okay. And then we can go to registrars, 163. Wages is $200. That purchase of service, we now are using and have been for a number of years now, a printing and mailing service to do our annual census, which is required by Mass General Law. And so that's that 2,600. I went up, let's see, where am I here? Oh, 3,150. Yeah, total. Because that includes the postage and whatnot. We do get a reduced rate by using this company.
Mhm.
And we do also have them do our second mailing, which is also required. So that's about it, unless you have any questions.
I see a question from Bob Zakansky.
Hi, Bob.
If I
Yes.
recall correctly, last year we sent out the town warrants with the newspaper. How did that work out? And do you think you're going to do it again?
Actually, that comes out of the selectman's office. That's the town warrant. Yes, we are. To answer your question, I am certain we will do that. I thought that was great success, as did Jenny and the selectmen, and Don as well. What I'm talking about here is the annual census, the street listing.
Yeah, it
that's
just made me think of that
yeah,
mailing, that's all.
Yeah.
I thought you were sending that out too, but you're right, it is the selectmen. All right,
no,
thank
but
you.
that was a great thing we did. That was excellent. Saved us a lot of money.
Okay.
Any other questions for Pam?
Nope.
Well, while I have you, Pam, I do just want to say that you and your whole team should get a lot of credit for pulling off elections in a really unprecedented circumstance where the rules were changing basically every week. And I think I remember like turnout was higher than it's ever been, right?
Yeah, we had it. Well, particularly for the presidential, it was amazing. It was great.
So
Yeah, we are very lucky. Jen Markey, the assistant town clerk, and our election workers are amazing. They rallied with every twist and turn, and I had great support. I also had great support from town hall staff. We had ballots coming out of our eyeballs, and they helped us sort and stuff and sticker, and they were just fabulous. Just fabulous. And we actually did pretty well. It sounds awkward, but with the CARES Act, we were able to do some pretty good upgrades with election equipment and supplies. We had leased a second voting tabulator for this year because we knew it was going to be a heavy volume election year. And as a result of a grant that I got through Center for Technology and Civic Life grant, which everyone refers to as the Facebook grant, I was able to actually purchase that machine. So now we own two very good voting tabulators. So I'm really excited about that.
awesome. Well, thank you for all the hard work. I hope you're recovered.
Well, thank you very much. It was a huge team effort.
All right. All right. So just really quickly to go back over the numbers, the total 161 budget is $111,407. The total for 162, which is elections, is $6,035. And the total for 163, which is street listing and registrars, is $3,150. Right, Nanachka?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody wants to make a motion to approve those three budgets, that would be great.
I move we approve those three budgets.
Okay.
Second,
I'll second that.
Okay. And a quick roll call. Omid,
Yes.
Bob,
yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. All right. Thank you so much, Pam.
Great. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Have a good night.
Good
You as
night.
well.
Okay. And then next up, we will be hearing from Mr. Paul McKenzie on our MIS budget. And feel free to unmute yourself.
Hey, can
And,
everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
How's it going?
It's going well. How's it going with you?
Good.
Alright.
I know like last time you had an emergency with another municipality, so I hope that all worked out.
It did. We got them back up and running the next night. So I apologize for
Oh, no problem.
Having to reschedule, but West Boylston, they had a sprinkler head let go on the second floor of their town hall, and it all
Yeah.
leaked down to the first floor into the basement where the equipment was. So we were a
Wow.
little stressed out that night.
Yeah.
But, they're all back up and running. So life is good.
Okay. So what I'll do, Bob, do you mind sharing your screen with budget 155?
Okay.
All right, so those are the numbers that we have, Mr. McKenzie. I don't know, does that
Okay.
look consistent with what you've got? The 58,549?
Yep.
All
Yep,
right,
that is
so
correct.
if you could just walk through the elements of your budget, that would be great.
Yeah. Let's see, 155. Let me find it on here. Okay. So purchase of services, that's mostly the cost for CM Geeks. Again, we're flat. This is our fourth year going in with those prices. Repairs, again, we never quite know what that is. This year we're running a little higher. We've had, a few things go like UPSs, and I think there's a printer expense or something. I gotta look back at the details, but again, we typically hold it at about $600. Just because we never know where it's going to go. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it. Software support. So that's Esri for the most part. That's 2305. Every 5 years, I got a placeholder in there for deep freeze. That's to upgrade the library software where it reimages the PCs. Web services. So that is like the internet for Comcast. That is also Google Suite, which is what we use for your email for .biz and .com. We've migrated off of Office 365, which was also part of the Comcast expense. Civic Plus is in there, which is for the website, just the bare bones Town of Bolton website. There is domain registrations, which is a trivial number, which is $95 a year. And then Invoice Cloud, which is to pay invoices, which is used by the tax office. And the next line there is equipment, which is our leases. And those are pretty self-explanatory. This year, we did not move forward with a server lease and the library lease. The library's pretty much closed for patrons. Those are the machines that were slated to be upgraded. So we decided to hold off on that until the library opens. Allows us to save a little bit of money, and it also will be faster, more powerful machines at the same cost. I mean, technology keeps getting better and the prices stay flat. So we thought it'd be best to hold off on that. The server would require a lot of on-site activity, and just with COVID in mind, the servers are healthy from a hardware standpoint. They're slowing down. They're off warranty, but we do have a spare, so we figured we'd take the chance on that, and just again try to minimize as much contact as we can, just to keep everybody a little bit safer with COVID. So we, once the COVID list, we'll probably move forward on those projects. So we'll save a little bit of money this year in that line item. And with that.
But for next year, at least in the equipment line, we shouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of an increase for FY23.
Right. What I budgeted is accurate. I think what we're going to find is it might be more of a challenge. We may see a little bit of an increase in following years, but we'll just see what we can do and spread out to keep everything flat. But I'm confident we'll meet the 2022 budget.
Okay. Questions from everybody else? And
Could you say again what purchase and services is for?
So that's for CM Geeks. That's for, so that's, we contract at a fixed fee cost. So, so that's the biggest part of the number. That's 21,000. There's $4,800 in there, which was part of upgrading, the library desktops and whatnot, which again, if we don't actually end it, we'll do it in 2022, but I always get confused. My orientation, we're talking about the future, not current.
Yeah.
But like this year, the money we had in there probably won't be spent because, I'm still thinking June. My guess is we're going to see, COVID become less and less significant June, July, August, and hopefully getting back to somewhat of a normal state in September is my guess. Let's hope nothing shocking happens. But as the vaccine rolls out, I think we'll return to a more normal life. It may never be quite the same, but we won't be afraid to interact as human beings.
So shouldn't the purchases of equipment and things be in the 2022 budget?
Yeah, this is what we're planning on doing in 2022.
Okay.
Any other questions? I don't see any. So, all right, would somebody like to make a motion to approve budget 155 for a total of $58,549?
I'll move we approve that budget.
Somebody want to second it?
Second it.
All right.
Great. All right, roll call. Bob,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Omid,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. All right, thank you
Yeah.
both
You're welcome.
for coming. Stay
Yeah.
safe.
We will. Have a good night.
Okay,
You
you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So we have, I think, a couple more minutes before the representative from Minuteman will be here. So in the meantime, what we can do is we have a transfer request from our town administrator, which we can discuss. And I don't know I know Jenny was listening in, and if she has any additional details, feel free to chime in. But basically, the amount being requested is $11,065.79. And it's for a transfer to the legal line item. And the amount is basically to be paying legal bills received through the end of January, totaling $10,657.50. So I think it's fair to say we can expect to see some more legal transfer requests between now and the end of the fiscal year. Nanachka, are you able to tell us offhand how much we have left in the advisory reserve fund as of tonight?
I was just trying to log on to see.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Jenny, you have your hand raised?
Couple minutes, I'll check.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know, we've already received one more legal bill in the amount of $498, I believe, that just was emailed yesterday. So I'm already starting to work off the additional 3,000 that I'm requesting.
Okay.
I don't know if work off is the right way to phrase that, but it'll come in very handy to have accessibility to some extra funds.
So, but just to be clear, the amount being requested in this transfer is $11,065.79, right?
Yeah, I don't have it open, but that sounds exactly right. So
Okay.
that 11,000 includes all of the bills, which I think I sent over in the same attachment. I think there were a series of 4 or 5 bills that added up to roughly over 7,000, if I'm remembering correctly. And then I factored in an extra 3,000 to have for future bills that we undoubtedly expect.
Yep.
So I don't need to change the amount. I'm just mentioning that we're already receiving more bills. So it will be nice to have that extra 3,000.
Yep. Yeah, because the balance as of right now is almost only $2,600. So, Nanachka, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but were you able to find?
Brian, is this unusual that we see this many legal bills in a year?
This year seems like slightly higher, but normally this is the time of year where we start to see quite a few. I think,
It is 2,600.
oh no, but I meant how much is left in the advisory reserve fund? Sorry. Yeah, and Bob, we've talked in the past a little bit about whether it would ever make sense to bump up the legal budget. And I think that because historically there have been some years where we're not that far off, and because usually these legal expenses do count as unforeseen, at least in terms of like the nature of the claims,
Right.
we usually prefer to handle it this way.
So we have $83,244.
Okay. All right, so does somebody want to make a motion to approve the transfer request of $11,065.79?
Motion to
move-
approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, Bob,
Yes.
Omid,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay, and then Jenny, please pester me if I forget to email this to you tomorrow with the
No, I
signature.
will.
Me too.
Great. Great. And then we can also, oh, Jenny, I don't know, are you able to ping the superintendent from Minuteman just to let him know that if he wants to jump on, we are running a little bit early?
Actually, I don't know that I can do that when I'm not the host. So if you don't mind, I can take the hostship back and do
Sure.
that.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from 2 weeks ago. They look good to me. Bob and Bill have been doing a great job. Thank you. So does somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes from, gosh, what was the date? The 9th? Was it the
This
9th?
is Ann. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 9th.
I'll
I
second that.
second that.
Okay. Omid,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay, great. And
It looks like Dr. Quillen has just entered.
I just was about to say that. Thank you. We can't see you. Oh, there we go. Hi.
Now we can.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us by Zoom.
Sure.
Since there are a few new members of our advisory committee, if you just would mind taking a moment to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm Ed Quillen. I'm the superintendent at Minuteman Regional. I've been there for 14 years, and that's me, I guess.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Jenny Jacobson, our town secretary, had an opportunity to share. You sent along a slide deck, a PowerPoint slide deck.
I did.
And also a budget book. So I don't know if, would it be helpful for us to share the slide deck on the screen, or do you want to share it and talk through it for us?
Hold on, let me see. Yeah, I can share it with you. Let me just get Jenny's. Yeah, bear with me just a sec.
No problem.
Jenny, okay. Yes, okay, let me, yeah, the budget book is a little bit more detailed information. The slide, yep. Beginning. Back here, share screen. Where am I now? There we go. We'll go from, there we go. Can you all see that?
Yes, perfect.
Yep.
All right, great. I'll just go through it, and if you have any questions as I'm going through, I'll answer them, and then we can have a further discussion. We're calling this our preliminary budget, as you know, because the state budget hasn't finished. Overall, our operating budget is up, I believe, a modest 2.4%. Our operating and capital is up about $450,000, and I can delve into the latter deeper. The biggest increase for Minuteman, for all of our member towns, is our project debt for our new building begins to peak in FY 22 and 23. Some of the assumptions we've made about revenue for the district, we're estimating a reduction in Chapter 78 and regional transportation aid from the state. And the major reason for the Chapter 78 reduction is that Belmont is no longer a member beginning in this fiscal year. So their required local minimum contribution is not included. And even though as our enrollment is increasing, we expect this Chapter of 78 to increase in FY 23. Regional transportation aid is down because it's based upon what you spent in the previous year. And in March, a year ago, we went into a full remote model. And so we didn't use the buses, and we had a contract that allowed us not to be charged for that. So that's down for next year as well. So what we've tried, our prior year tuition, that's tuition that we're collecting this year, is down because we have a larger number of in-district students and fewer out-of-district students. That prior year tuition is tuition we collect from non-member communities that send us students. Current year tuition is what we anticipate collecting in FY 22. We're using that to offset the revenue losses from the other, from the state, basically. We also are able to charge a capital fee to non-member communities. That capital fee is set, we do the calculations, and then we send that capital fee calculation to the Department of Ed. They approve it. And there are two kinds of capital fees. One is for communities that have no vocational education, and that's about $5,000 a student. And then, no, that's about $7,000, excuse me, $7,500 actually. And for communities that have 5 or more Chapter 74 programs, their capital fee is less, about $5,000. So we're planning to use more of the capital fee that we collect next year as well. And then our certified excess and deficiency is about $540,000. So that's how we're assuming these revenues, and that's how we've sort of made up for the shortfalls we expect. Oops, sorry about that. People from Stowe are texting me. Some budget assumptions as we go into this next year. We're assuming COVID's going to be with us in some form or another, which means a level of remote learning, a level of in-person learning. I should mention that beginning Monday, March 1st, let me back up. Currently, Minuteman only has 1 grade in person 5 days a week, and the other 3 grades are in remote learning. And the students who are in person are in their vocational technical training area every day, all day long. On Monday, we're bringing back another grade. So we'll have 2 grades in the building at the same time, and that second group will be in full-day academics. And I imagine that's probably how we'll end the year, although the commissioner's talking about some other measures that I guess he released today. We're assuming a reduced state and federal aid, as I talked about, or unknown. That may not be true, as the federal government is working on another stimulus package. We're going to borrow our final amount of money to pay for the MSBA project. And the big thing in our assumptions is that we're having a tremendous amount of interest in Minuteman. We've already exceeded the design enrollment of the school. Yeah, I chuckle too. Many of you know the struggle we had to get the school we have, which is designed for 628 students. We currently have 631. We're probably going to be closer to 680 next year. So we're trying to look at ways that we could increase the capacity of the school and do that cost effectively without borrowing money, without making another building project. The last one took 12 years and 30 years off my life. So just to give you a glimpse of where we are with enrollment and admissions, the far right column are the current 8th graders that have applied to Minuteman. We have about 340 total applications, and 255 of those are from the 9 member towns. We've had about 41 out-of-district applications from eligible communities. That means that they don't have any vocational programming in their district at all. And we currently are putting a waiting list together. We are not going to be able to accept every student that's qualified and that has applied. As of today, I think we have about 40 member district students on a waiting list and 90 out-of-district students on a waiting list. So I guess, well, I don't even know how to talk about that. It's not a good thing that we can't provide high quality career and technical education to all the students in our district that want it. So our assumptions has led to some priorities, obviously protecting health. We're starting our new animal science program this fall in the vet assisting emphasis of the frameworks. We're also expanding our robotics automation engineering program. We received a grant, $300,000, and we're expanding into the logistics engineering automation area in the building. We had planned for that. It just took us a few years longer to get to it. We're looking at, as I mentioned, increasing enrollment capacity. The athletic fields, we were able to save money in the project, and we had about $4 million from the project to put towards 3 synthetic athletic fields. And as I've spoken to the member towns since January, or probably before, we're going to be lighting those fields as well. That's going to allow us to ramp up our facilities rental and revenue after COVID. We have some great facilities at the new school that are going to be generating some revenue, and we hope to get that a little further along next year as the data allows us to do that. Some of the big drivers in our budget, we're in the 2nd year of a 3-year agreement with our teachers. In FY22, that's a 2.25% increase in the cost of living. Year 3 is 2%. We've had an increase in electrical and heat bills. This is sort of a question mark for me. I think part of the reason we're having this increase is that in the COVID environment, we've had to maximize the air exchanges, and we don't have the people in the building that generate BTUs. So we're tracking this pretty carefully. But in the meantime, we're trying to prepare for it. We also have some maintenance contracts on the new equipment that's been installed. Oops, what did I do there? Health insurance has gone down. I've never said this in 15 years of presenting budgets. It's down due to fewer FTEs, fewer staff in the building. Our transportation budget is down because we were through some competitive bidding with our bus companies. Believe it or not, we had 2 bids, and it was less than what we budgeted for. So the assessment for Bolton is about $664,000. That's an increase of $72,000. And if you look at the components of the Bolton assessment, you can see that the project debt service is the main increase, and that was excluded in Bolton. I think 7 of our 9 towns excluded the building project debt from Prop 2.5. Bolton enrollment is relatively small, but it's been increasing. It's going to be increasing again next year. There's 15 students now. Our special ed enrollment has always remained pretty high. About 46% of our kids are on IEPs. And again, once again, 100% of them pass the MCAS on the first try. So we're pretty proud of the work that we do with our special ed students. It's a large component of our budget as compared to other vocational schools. About 12.5% of our total budget from a few years ago, and this is based on what the DESE website says. Just an overview of the capital. Our operating budget there is up 2.4%. The capital equipment lease, we're still paying on an ESCO lease. About 12 years ago, we got what's called a tax exempt municipal lease to do energy savings, which was really a health and safety issue in the old building. So that lease payment is about $450,000. And actually all 16 towns are still paying on that lease payment. That will continue until FY24, I think, is our last payment. Also included in that equipment lease is our athletic field lighting. So that's where the increase is mainly from. And we're also contributing, continuing to contribute to a capital stabilization fund so that we're maintaining the building. We're not having to go back to towns to ask for more money to take care of this beautiful building we have. And you can see the increase in the debt service is almost 1.2 million, a large component of next year's budget. I usually get questions about our OPEB liability. It's currently estimated at about 32 million. For the last 4 years or so, we've only put in a small amount of $50,000. This year and next year, we're going to appropriate $60,000 to our OPEB trust fund, which does earn a little bit of interest. But the Minuteman Finance Subcommittee, its long-term strategy is when that ESCO debt is retired, we would take a large portion of that and put that towards our OPEB liability going forward. So again, that's the Bolton assessment. And if there are any questions or I can answer.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I think what I'd like to do is open it up to everybody else on the committee to ask any questions that they might have about Minuteman's budget, Bolton's assessment specifically. And I have some questions too, but I'll save those.
Sure.
And feel free, you can stop sharing your screen if it makes it easier for us to see faces.
There we go.
All right, awesome, thanks. Oh, and I see David O'Connor, our school committee representative from Bolton. So thank you for being here. All right, so do folks have questions for Dr. Quillen about Minuteman's budget? I did want to ask a little bit about obviously we're getting a big bump up this year, which was somewhat anticipated because of the timing of the debt load. But did you say it's this year and next year, FY23, are going to be the peaks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and that includes borrowing the final amount too. So because the interest rates are so favorable right now, we won't have to increase the assessment for FY22, even though we're going to be borrowing all of the remaining budget for the building.
So, next year, would you expect another significant increase, or would it just be that we're not seeing a decrease?
it should be a fairly modest increase, nothing like what we've had this year.
And then a drop off a little bit for debt in FY '24.
Yeah, I can give you a, a more detailed payment schedule once we get the final borrowing done, but it will begin to go down slowly, very slowly over the next 28 years.
Okay. And then just a couple of things I noticed in your larger budget book.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like Bolton's enrollment has been ticking up a little bit, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But this year, you are reducing staffing overall at Minuteman by 5 full-time equivalents. Is that right?
Yeah, let me explain. When COVID hit, we had some layoffs of paraprofessionals. Because everybody was remote, we didn't need to have paraprofessionals in the classrooms or the shop areas. As we've gone through this process, we haven't rehired any of the paraprofessionals, and we're not planning on doing that. We've also had some retirements that were not in staffing. There's been no active layoffs of teaching staff. It's all been support staff and paraprofessionals.
Okay. And then I saw you guys have a legal budget and you have a legal settlements budget. Your legal budget was going down, I think, by $5,000 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And is that does that change a lot from year to year, or is that 70 grand roughly where you've been for a while?
That's where we've been for a while. If you recall, a few years back when we were going through the process of getting the building approved, we had to revise our regional agreement. And as we've gone through the process of building the school, there's been continuing legal advice that we've needed to get. And I've just held it at that. So I'm hoping it's not going to be as much as it's been in the past. But Minuteman had a lot of need for legal advice.
I just want to make sure that the number that we have again matches up with what you had presented. So our total assessment in our spreadsheet is $664,408. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Any questions from people that are not part of the finance committee? No. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve Minuteman's budget as submitted?
I move we approve Minuteman's budget as submitted.
I second that.
Okay, and I'll do a roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Omid?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay.
Thank you.
team.
Thank you both so much for joining us tonight. And hopefully this time next year, it'll be in person.
Yeah, I hope so too. I have to ask, is Don Lowe in the witness protection program? That
Looks it, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out a way to alter my voice, but I couldn't do it.
Deep throat.
I think you're projecting, Ed, but
yeah, I may. It's good to see you all except Don, who I can't see.
That's because, Ed, I was always told I had the perfect face for radio, so I went with it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. All right.
Well, I just wanted to say again, I want to thank Ed and his team for the multiple revisions of the budget. Having the opportunity to sit on the school committee and see the revisions and some of the difficult decisions, optimizations and challenges that Ed and his team put together to try and whittle down the budget to a manageable and and needed amount. And given the striking times we're in, I just wanted to make sure that I recognize him in this form.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the team.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
So
then,
good to say the budget book was really good, really helpful, very clear, concise, easy to read. I appreciate
Great.
that.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to find me.
great, thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, thank you. I
Thanks, folks.
appreciate it.
And I just like to say, in all seriousness, you do a great job presenting your budget and having all the figures right out there. I agree with the Notchkid. It is very easy to absorb.
Great. Thanks, Don. I appreciate it.
Jenny, I don't know if you can hear me, but maybe if you want to resume the host for a minute and send a message to Pat or Rob that we're running a little ahead of schedule. And in the meantime, I'm looking at our spreadsheet that has so Nanotchka, this is a you question. If we're at the articles tab of the spreadsheet, the school capital requests, which I know we'll get to when they're here, it's the Emerson air duct cleaning, the smoke detector replacement, the Florence Sawyer boiler, and the Florence Sawyer oil tank removal, right? It's those four?
Yes, that's what I have.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that wasn't reflected in our spreadsheet.
Yeah, Brian, those are the four requests. When I go over the capital with all of you, I'll be suggesting that we defer the oil tank removal to FY23.
Okay.
Brian, have we seen the high school numbers yet, or is this going to be a surprise?
So it's interesting. So the numbers were sent to some numbers were sent to, it was just the town administrators, right, Don?
Yes.
And he forwarded those to me, but I have not received any official numbers from the school district directly. So I think we're going to just see what they present tonight.
And do we need to vote tonight on approving or not? Or?
We don't.
Because it may still change. It has to be voted at school committee still.
Yeah. In fact, I want to say the last 2 years, Craig or Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, the last 2 years, I don't think we voted on the Neshoba budget until it had been approved by the school committee at their March meeting. Like, we heard the presentation, but I don't think we technically voted until the school committee has accepted the budget as presented, which I think this year is going to happen maybe the second week of March.
Quick question then, if that's the case and we have a big COVID relief thing that's coming down as well, hopefully, shouldn't we like push this back to after it's been approved so we can actually like have a look at it before we voting, like hearing it or things like that, so it saves everyone the time?
I think it would still be good to get as much information now as we can, because yeah. Oh, and I see Pat Maroney has joined. Hi. I think, are you muted? Yeah, you're muted. Could you unmute?
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm not muted now.
No, you're not. And do you know if Rob Frieswick will be joining as well?
I believe he will be. Are you ready for us right now?
Well, we won't do the capital until the end. So if you wanted to get started on the operating stuff, we could do that. And then, so like Rob doesn't have to jump on right this moment, but we are ready to get started on the non-capital stuff.
So did Alita send over the PowerPoint?
I have not seen it, but if you have it and you can share your screen.
Okay. One second, I just have to move things around here. Okay. Lost the share the screen. There it is. See if you can see it there.
Yep.
So is that that's the executive summary. I want to do the PowerPoint. I thought she had sent this over to you. I'm sorry about this. I'm working from 2 screens here. Okay. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just get started. I'll just get right into it right away. I think that there are some important things that you need to know about the budget this year. The expenditure budget is $59,022,941. It's a 1.71% increase from last year. E&D as a revenue source is $1 million. And we have $1.8 million in cuts, 1.2 unspecified at this time due to contract negotiations and retirement savings. Assessment increases from last year are as follows. Bolton, 2.94%, Lancaster, 3.53%, and Stowe, a minus 0.42%. I've also have, I don't know if you can see it there. This was a request from the town of Lancaster, a breakout of our operating budget and some capital leases and debt service. Does anybody have any questions on any of these things? I'm kind of going fast on you here.
No, I think what we can do is probably we'll circle back to questions at the end, but
okay.
Feel free to just run through the slides and then we can go back to questions. Thanks.
There are some expenditure points that I want to bring up. Health insurance rate increase was 5% this year. We're hoping for a little bit better, but it didn't come through that way. Transportation is 8.36. It's an option year renewal. We decided to go with that because it was at this time we're expecting that the transportation rates are probably going to go through the roof after what's happened in the past couple of years. And there's no additional revolving fund offset for this transportation fund this year. The feasibility study debt is included in this budget. And that's because if this does take place in next year's fiscal year, only the interest portion, not the principal portion, will be in the budget. And that's just happens to be the way that it will work out. There's an increase in utilities, and there's a couple of reasons why. Most is due to open windows and running additional air purifiers, keeping the airflow in the buildings. And it's a little bit cooler, so we have to run the heat a little bit more. There's also a reduction in revolving fund program offsets. Some programs that we've run through there, we were able to offset some of our utilities by that in the past, and we don't have that right now. Substitute teachers have trending changes, only because it seems like we have kind of a flip-flop from daytime, regular day subs to long-term subs, and a lot of that's COVID related. Teaching and learning has an increase in additional instructional software. and that's due to COVID. Special education reduction, we have a reduction this year and out of district tuition, so that's a good sign. That's always something good to hear. Technology, there's increases in bandwidth. Hardware is down a little bit because we don't have any, new and, state-of-the-art things that we might try and test out to see how they work in a given year. We didn't really go down and indulge in that area this year because we wanted to make sure we had enough Chromebooks in the hands of the kids that will need them next year. And supplies are greater because of Chromebooks that have been deployed. Athletics, they're mostly, there are quite a few reductions there. All others are level funded. All other lines in the athletic budget are level funded. And you'll also see the center school, Mary Rowlandson and Florence Sawyer, all reflect the increase in teaching line because of the full day kindergarten. And that additional funding is in the Chapter 70 revenue. This is probably difficult for you to read, but this is the budget drivers that we have. You can see salaries as always is always the biggest driver. Insurance, although it appears to be down, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong line here. Salaries for existing personnel, it's down because we've made some cuts already. And insurance and benefits is up about 501,000. And it's also, there's some trending towards additional people that have jumped onto our plans where the spouse isn't working and they, we've had additional people on.
See, oh, excuse me, is there a way you can make this presentation full screen and then we'd have a better chance of seeing small print?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
Hmm.
It's not allowing me to do it when I'm sharing. Sorry about that.
I wonder if you could unshare and make it full screen and then share
Yeah.
again.
I'll try that. Hold on for a second.
There's got to be a way to do it.
I know. I don't understand what's going on. It's worked perfectly up until this point.
Are you sharing just the document or are you sharing your entire screen?
I'm sharing my screen, my actual screen.
She's got a PowerPoint presentation and she should be able to make that full screen and each page.
I understand that, but when you select share screen, it usually pops up with a number of icons. The first one is your entire screen, but if you click below that just on the single document you're trying to share, it may give you more capability to control the view.
Okay.
Right.
That isn't really much better. Is that any better?
Yeah, a bit.
Okay.
What are those icons below? Nothing that shares it. Try that. Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Well, you were on the last slide, right? Or no,
Okay.
number 6, right?
Yep.
And I think maybe if you go to, yeah, and then see the little magnifying glass on the bottom. See that?
That only highlights a portion of the slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is, oh, there we
Maybe I
go.
can move it around. That's not going to really help.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it was a nice thought.
Okay, sorry.
Nope. But actually, while we're here, I did want to ask a question about this slide real quick. I know I said I was going to do it at the end, but I don't want to forget.
Okay.
So the total for FY22 on this page is 59 million. So I'm assuming everything in your operating budget is captured by the lines in these budget drivers, right? Like there's not.
Correct.
Okay. So my question is where would something like legal be? Would it be in site-based and department funds? Because it's not broken out.
Yes, that would be other system-wide operating expenses.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So
Other
that
system-
would, you'd see that in the executive summary, that would be under system-wide. You would have insurance first and then it would be system-wide. You'd
Got
see
it.
there's a legal line there. There's one legal line there. The other, there's actually two legal lines in the budget. There's one for regular legal expenses across the district, and then there's a separate one for special ed needs.
Okay.
And where is that?
That would be in
This-
special
is it
ed.
represented here?
That would be in the special, that would be in special ed, non-salary without transportation.
And then the other thing that I wanted to ask, and I guess this actually goes back a
Well,
little.
wait a minute. If that's legal expenses, you're telling me we have over $2 million in legal expenses for
No.
special education?
No, that's in the executive summary, which is usually the very first document in the front of our budget. It has every single line for the budget. There is a line in the special ed department for legal expenses.
Which is not represented here.
No, this is this is a summary page. It takes groups of different categories and summarizes them. So this just kind of gives you like a grouping and then
to follow
where the
on
drivers are.
Right, well, to follow on to Brian's question, I think we need a little more information on what the overall district legal expenses are, whether it has to do with SPED or otherwise.
Okay.
Given some information that's come out in terms of some decisions that were rendered where the district is potentially liable now for some expenses, where we estimate at least between what the district may or may not owe parents and what the district has spent. We have one case that could be in excess of $600,000. And I'm hearing that there are lots of these kinds of cases going on. I think we need to understand clearly what the district is spending on legal expenses in general, and certainly for special ed, litigation and special education. Because quite frankly, the taxpayers are giving you money to fund your budget, and there's money being spent to fight the parents. So I think we need to get a better handle on that, and understand what that dollar amount is.
Okay.
Yes. So kind of related, you hadn't joined when we got the presentation from Minuteman, but one of the things is that, you're presenting summary information, but they are able to actually share their full budget book, which is like almost 30 pages. So we're actually able to see all of that detail in a way that we can't with your budget. And so I think for those of us that are in a position of having to recommend approval or disapproval, it makes it tough because, obviously the Neshoba assessment is the number one ticket for Bolton overall in terms of the assessment. And there's a lot of detail that we don't get access to. And it really ought to be shared so that we can ask these sorts of questions and get some peace of mind before we recommend approval one way or the other.
But
and so I know,
Brian, I just want to point out that this budget has not been presented to our school committee yet. If this meeting was happening next week, I could give that to you. But where it's this week, I can't. They have not seen this. That's why I'm only giving this out in summary. I'm giving you actually a lot of detail, the highlights anyway. But if you want to look at that information will be made public. And I think, let me just check one thing.
Yep.
You can just bear with me for a minute. The executive summary is up on our website right now in preparation for that meeting tomorrow night. So if you need to look at any particular line, I just don't have it as part of this presentation, but I can tell you how much it is in special ed. And it isn't necessarily that we're fighting the parents. It's just that we need, in some cases, we need to cover the district so we get legal advice in regards to how we should proceed with different issues as it related to special ed students. Hold on for 1 minute.
So I'm just
So I don't know where that 600,000 came from. It's not something I'm aware of. Perhaps Brooke is. Like I said, we had a conflict tonight. She's finishing up with Joe. She'll be joining us pretty soon, but we generally spend about $50,000 a year. Or we plan to spend about $52,000 this year in legal expenses just related to special ed. And some of them are, you know, it's not a settlement in that line. And I'm not aware at this point of any large settlement at $600,000.
So just so that I'm clear, tomorrow night is the meeting at which this information will be released to the full school committee?
Yes.
Okay, and so then at that point, you can share, or did you say it's already up on the website?
It's already up on the website. I believe that it was put up today.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the executive summary, I'm sorry I can't share my screen, but yeah, I'm seeing right now, it's one of the exhibits for tomorrow night's meeting, an executive summary that's about, I don't know, 10 pages long, and it looks like it has all the line item. Yeah, it's 10 pages with the line items. Got it.
And actually all of the documents from this point on in the presentation are included in there. So if you want me to continue to share, I can do that.
Yeah, sure, that would be great.
So one other thing that I did was I did a little bit of a graph for some budget increases so that we can see where we are. We have a really low increase in the budget this year. It's 1.71%. It shows a comparison back as far as 2018. And then I did another graph of assessment changes, a 5-year trend. You can see that the percentage increases have been going down for everybody, it seems. I mean, it's not as high as it was, I believe, what year was that? In 2019, they're definitely lower. I just thought that was a good informational.
Why is that? Is there something in particular that has driven those lower numbers?
Yes, absolutely, there is. There is a calculation that's performed by the state, and it's called the minimum local contribution.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're aware of, you know, how they make that up that that number. And it has to do with property values and the wealth factor. And the state determines how much based on those factors, you know, how much Bolton should be responsible to pay for the
Okay, I got it.
education. And this is the 5-year rolling foundation enrollments. For the operating assessment, you can see that they stay pretty consistent. For Bolton, it's still 32%. And interestingly enough, and I double and triple checked these numbers, the high school enrollment for capital assessment, and that would be for the debt assessment at the high school, Bolton and Stowe have the same number of students this year. May never happen again. And this is our revenue based on the assessments as it stands right now. And this is all based on the numbers that came out from the state.
Yep.
Latest numbers.
Okay. I know that Rob Frieswick has joined, so we can go over the capital stuff. Before we move on, I'd like to open it up to questions about the operating budget, recognizing that it hasn't been presented to the full school committee yet.
Right, and this could change. That's one of the things that I need to tell you about this budget. It could change.
That's what I was gonna ask, and that makes sense.
Can you say more, like it could change in which direction?
However, the school committee wants it to change.
Exactly.
And what sorts of things might change? Like,
well, the
Wouldn't be
financial position in Lancaster could be driving some additional changes. The 3.53% may not be something that they can afford.
so you're saying that the town assessments might change, but your operating budget is not likely to change?
The operating budget will have to change. We'll have to make additional cuts. We've identified about 500,000 already and removed them from the budget, and we have 1.2 million additional ones to make.
I see Don Lowe has his hand up.
Oh, I see you there. Dawn.
Pat, I just wanted to ask you, you said that this may change, but the budget you have there that's going to be presented tomorrow night, is Brooke going to recommend it?
I believe she is.
Okay.
Pat, can you explain the $1 million in E&D?
Every year we have been using E&D as a revenue source in the budget. And basically what we do is if we have $1 million in as a revenue source, we're hoping that, you know, whether it's retirement savings, other unforeseen savings that come across in the district, that we may have that $1 million to put back at the end of the year so that we can have a stable amount in E&D. This year, we've been trying to reduce the amount that we use from E&D because eventually there isn't going to be any excess, which I don't anticipate there will be any excess for next year, and unless something really dramatic happens at the federal level and helping the states out. The road I'm going down is we're trying to get off that wheel of constantly using it, and we had trended down to about 650,000. We're hoping over a couple of years to be at like 500,000 and then 400,000, and whether through efficiencies or I don't know, the cost, our staffing costs always go up where, you know, we have to adhere to what the contract yields. And I just, I think that this year we had to put $1 million in there only because we couldn't bring the percentages down low enough for a town like yourself or for Lancaster to be able to afford it. Stowe is in a very different position. So whether it's because maybe many years back, their minimum local contribution was actually closer to where it should have been in the first place, I don't know, but they've made so many adjustments in the last couple of years. And I know Stowe was hit really hard, especially this year. Does that answer your question about the E&D?
Not exactly.
Okay. Do you want to know where it comes from?
Sure, that's a good place
Oh,
to start.
okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were a little bit more informed as far as that goes. E&D is, it's like your net worth in a business. You know, basically it's the amount of, after your revenue comes in and your expenditures are finished, and if you have any excess revenues from your budget, that excess money would go into an excess and deficiency fund. And in towns and in a regional school districts are allowed to have the same type of fund as cities and towns. Over the years, it can build up. And at one point, it was over $2 million, but we've used it as a revenue source over a number of years. And it's pretty tough to get off the wheel when you've been using it. And basically, it's like your net worth.
It's like the
net
town's
worth of
free
the
cash.
district.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So the other thing is there's a restriction on it. It can't go above 5% of the new operating budget. So it couldn't go above 5% of this budget that we're presenting today.
2.5 million plus or minus.
Right. Right. So otherwise we would have to give the money back to the towns. So we're not anywhere near that right now. Right now we haven't certified yet. We've been waiting a couple of months. They're very slow this year. Probably somewhere about around 1.3 million,
Okay.
which is down considerably.
Okay.
All right, so why don't we move on to some of the capital requests? I don't know if Rob or Pat wants to take those. Basically all we have at this point is the list of the 4 requests. So we're aware of an Emerson air duct cleaning request for $20,000. Smoke detector replacement at $14,000, Florence Sawyer boiler, $95,000, and Florence Sawyer oil tank removal at $30,000.
Sure, we can start with the boiler and the oil tank. Back in 2018, they removed one of the oil-fired boilers and converted to propane. And when they did that install, the manifold was, or the system was designed for 4 of the condensing boilers. The initial phase of the project, they installed 2 of them. And we're looking to add the 3rd one this year. Increase the the available BTUs to heat the hot water, especially during COVID, where we're running outside air dampers more than they've ever been, run opens to increase the fresh air coming into the building. We have days that are, in the teens, and especially overnight when it gets in the single digits. Those two boilers are running 100%, just trying to maintain the loop temp in the hot water system. So by adding the 3rd boiler, it will, like I said, it'll increase the BTUs and take some of the load off the other 2 boilers, essentially, extending the life expectancy of the boilers and help maintain the water temp in the system itself. And by adding the 3rd boiler, we need to remove the 2nd bank of the oil-fired boilers in order to run the flue pipe and the fresh air intake into the system. Instead of opening up the roof with another penetration, because what we'll do is we'll go through the flue for the oil fire boilers. And by taking out the second bank of the oil fire boilers, there won't be a need for number 2 heating fuel, so there's no reason to have that tank in the ground anymore.
somebody else might know more about this, but like I vaguely recall that we had some like green communities grant money for a prior version of this project. So, but I'm not, at least on the spreadsheet we have, I'm not seeing any grant funding as an offset unless it's just not, unless it's above and beyond the 95 and the $30,000 request that you have for us.
I don't think this is, I don't believe it qualifies for the green community money, and I have to check with Eric Ariati. That was part of the initial conversion from oil to propane. Now that conversion's already made, I don't.
Come on.
Oh, sorry, I see Don Lowe has his hand up.
Brian, it doesn't qualify for green communities because the incremental heat efficiency wouldn't get us to the threshold. So the increased efficiency wouldn't get us to the threshold we need, because we already have the 2 propane boilers in. So we did ask the question and we were told no.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rob.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Is there any other questions on that?
Not from me. Anyone else?
We can move on to the duct cleaning. We had BLW engineers come in before, it was over the summertime, before school started, to do an assessment of all the HVAC systems across the district. To make sure that, everything is where it needed to be as far as code, and, make sure we're bringing enough fresh air into the buildings to, for COVID purposes. And one of the recommendations that they gave at Emerson was to bring in an air balancing company to do diagnostic testing, because there wasn't enough information on the plans or the units themselves. So we had Balancing Technologies come in. They did air balancing diagnostic testing, and one of the recommendations from that was to clean the ductwork at Emerson because it was pretty dirty. And by cleaning the ductwork, obviously, you're going to increase or improve the overall air quality in the building. And you'll potentially increase CFM coming into the building. And like I said, it's for overall cleanliness of the air in the building.
So wouldn't something like that, couldn't we be getting some CARES Act money for that?
I would imagine so. I don't know what the town of Bolton has left as far as CARES money.
If I could comment on that, there, some of that cleaning, if you are cleaning something and it doesn't have, it's not like you're repairing to bring it up to speed, or they're very particular about those types of things. In other words, that's something that should have been done all along, and it's like regular maintenance, and it doesn't qualify for COVID relief.
Yeah, I agree with Pat on that, Brian. It's it would have to be something new that we're doing, as opposed to what would have to be term maintenance, I think.
Yeah. Bob Zakansky, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, I was wondering, when was the last time, if ever, that those ducts were cleaned?
To my knowledge, never.
Okay, thank you.
This is maybe a little bit outside the scope, so if you don't have the answer, that's fine. But while we're on the topic of CARES Act stuff, does the school district have, or have they made available to either the school committee or the budget and warrant subcommittee, just like a list of how the CARES Act money is being spent by the district as opposed to the member towns?
I believe that something was sent out on that a while ago. It's evergreen as far as, well, the funding has changed, and they, at one point you could only use the funding up until the end of December, and now they've expanded it. So a lot of the grants had to be amended to pick up some of those costs that we were going to have to absorb in the budget for this year. So I haven't provided an update, but I I am going to soon, as soon as I get through this amendment process with this.
To that point, because of the extension, Bolton, Stowe, and Lancaster will have funds available until the end of 2021, if the school requests them.
Okay.
And we have made some CARES Act funds available already. Pat requested funds. I think the amount was about $19,000, and we have provided that.
That's correct.
Okay. And then, all right, so the last item requested is a smoke detector replacement.
Yeah, we've been having some issues with the smoke detectors over at Sawyer. Last time, I think it was over the summertime, we had an issue. It was on a Friday and Saturday where we were having faulty smoke detectors, where we actually had to take the building offline. And we thought the best approach, instead of replacing, I think at that point it was 4 or 5 of them that we had to replace. The best plan of attack was, because the age of them, they're 20-something years old now, would just be go ahead and replace all of them. You know, long term, it made more sense because, you know, the 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, you know, replacement at a time, you're looking at $400 or $500 per smoke detector. Where if we went and did basically the entire building, that would cut the price down to probably about $200 to $250 a smoke detector.
I don't know if this is already covered in some of the exhibits that the school committee is getting tomorrow, so I apologize if it's in there. But I know in prior years, you've sometimes been able to give us like 1 or 2 years out of what you think might be coming down the line for capital. So I don't know if at some point you can send that our way just so that we have a sense of what we're facing in FY23 and FY24. That would be great.
Okay, I can do that for you.
Brian, I actually have a version of that. And if Pat and Rob update it, I'm happy to take the updated version, but they did give me a snapshot of that when they submitted their capital requests. And when I present capital to advisory, I'll have a chart that has the school district, the fire department, and the police if there's anything beyond a cruiser. I gave Randy a pass on his 5-year plan for this year because he's had so many other things he's needed to deal with and get his arms around. But they have provided something like that.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question on the capital requests?
Sure.
So in both the air duct cleaning and the smoke detector replacement, is it okay to assume that the other buildings are fine in that regard? So the air ducts in the other buildings got a clean bill of health and smoke detectors in the other buildings are okay?
The other buildings, we didn't do the air diagnostic testing, but that's one thing with the ESSER money coming out that I'd like to do, or even, you know, tap into some of the CARES money that's left. And then those recommendations would come up, you know, if need be. You know, that I believe over at Emerson, those, you know, the air handling units, the rooftop units, I think were put in the 70s. So, you know, they're older. So I think that's why you see a significant amount of buildup in that ductwork in that building, where the other buildings are, you know, in the 20-year-old range, which I'm sure there's, you know, there's dust and stuff in those systems, but I don't think it's quite as bad as what Emerson's going to be.
Okay.
And as far as the smoke detectors, I'd like to say there's no rhyme or reason, but, you know, like I said, they're aging. You know, we use Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls come in, you know, and they do, you know, not analysis, but they, you know, code-wise, they have to come in and make sure, you know, everything is operating as it should. It's either annually or biannually. So, you know, if there was an issue that came up in any other buildings, you know, that would be in those reports.
A little bit related, Rob, do you guys have maintenance plans for each of the buildings? I think I remember you saying that was something you were working on, but I don't know what the status is.
So in this year in the budget, which I've tried to put in the past 2 or 3 years, was a computerized maintenance management system. And because of the cost of it and with, budget reductions, we've had to pull that out. But I think this year, and I believe it actually, in the new ESSER money, that we might be able to cover that as far as the operation and maintenance part of the ESSER money. So I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to get that in this year, and then we can really start laying the groundwork for all the buildings in the district for a solid plan as far as maintenance goes.
Got it. Any other questions for Pat and Rob while they're here this evening? I have one other question, and this might not be one you know the answer to, but I did notice that I think this is the first year in a while that Bolton doesn't have somebody on the budget and warrant subcommittee. Do you know why? Like, how did it shake out that way? Do you know?
I would assume it, I mean, I don't know for a fact. I think you have a couple of new members and maybe a couple of the other members had experience and it made sense for them to sit on that committee. I don't think it was purposeful.
But we could, I guess I wanted to figure out whether it was something that was spelled out in an agreement and it's just the way it is.
No.
Or so basically we could ask our own school committee members that question and that would be fine.
Oh, yeah, you can ask them why they're not on it.
Yeah. Okay.
They may be serving on multiple committees, other committees. There are a lot of subcommittees. So, it's a big commitment, school committee, and there are a lot of subcommittees, and I'm sure you all know that.
Yeah. No. All right. Well, thank you for giving us the heads up about tomorrow night. You vote, the school committee votes on the budget like the second week of March, right?
Yes, they'll vote on it after. It's sometime before the 15th. Let me see my calendar here. I don't have the school committee calendar right here in front of me.
I think it's the 10th.
It's before the 15th. Is it the 10th?
Is that right? Let's see. I believe it's the 10th.
Yeah, it is the 10th. Yeah, final vote of budget. I have it right here.
Okay.
That will be the 10th.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
That. All right. So I think we got through everything on our agenda for the evening, but we can chat about anything before we adjourn.
So Brian, this is, my first time through the process, but I sort of find it a little surprising that the largest by far expense in the budget, almost 60% of the budget is the school expenses, and we have, seems like little insight into where that's going, and for all of the careful budgeting we're doing in all other aspects of the budget, that's really playing in the margins compared to this expense.
Mm-hmm. I can understand why you would have that feeling.
Can I just mention something? So I just went and looked at the Stowe website because I assume they're having a meeting about this tonight also. And they have in their meeting agenda all the budget materials from the budget workshop from the school. So I'm just curious why we didn't get the same. It looks like they don't have the PowerPoint that we did, but we don't have the same things that they got. I think all three towns should be given the same information.
Yeah. Am I right in
this has been a problem. This has been a problem for years, where we don't get this kind of information and we get it late in the game.
Yeah.
So Bob, you were very astute, but this is not a new problem. This is a problem that we've had perennially with this district and with this school committee, especially the most recent school committee.
And is it true that if two of the three towns reject the budget, then it gets rejected?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it seems to me that we actually have more leverage than maybe we're applying here. And I think all I'm suggesting is that maybe we should force a little more transparency on the school committee, or just, we will get, 2 of the 3 of us will get together and reject it.
That's been the goal in the past. It hasn't worked out. It's not uncommon for someone to stand up at a Bolton town meeting and go, Stowe just voted in favor of the school budget. So now it's down to just Bolton and Lancaster. Right?
And Stowe's number is negative, so I'm pretty sure they're going to vote for
So they're not going to complain.
Yeah.
The transparent, they put out an enormous amount of numbers. It's not understandable like Minuteman's is.
I think our goal going forward with the new, we'll have a new superintendent, a new principal, maybe we can get on the right foot and work together and make it a collaborative process. I'm not saying we dive into their budget nitty gritty. They don't want that. We shouldn't do that. But I think a level of transparency and working together would be a good positive thing.
True, but this is up really to the school committee, because if you look at the history of the past 20 years, the school committee has historically, I'm not saying every school committee has done that. The school committee historically goes, you know what, we got experts to handle that financial stuff. We don't need to get into the detail. And then you've got what happened back in 2003. You have the forensic audit of a few years ago, and who knows what's going on now, because my dream is that someday a school committee member stands in front of annual town meeting and explains the school budget without the help of an administrator. Because that's never happened. That to me,
No, it has not.
I see that tells me that school committee person understands what we're voting for. But until I see the school committee person explain the budget without going, let me have the superintendent answer that question. Until that happens, I'm not convinced the school department understands the budget. This group spends hours every week from January to March going over 1/3 of the school district's budget. They do it in one big Saturday. It's mind-numbing. No one's going to understand the budget in one 8-hour session.
And you do it in public.
Yeah, and they do it in public. So, you can't ask the difficult questions.
I think 2 ideas that I have kind of related to what Nanachka mentioned with new administration is that I think that we have an opportunity to try to have like a stronger liaison relationship with the school committee next year. So this year we didn't do liaisons from the finance committee to the school committee, but I think it would make sense to really try to establish that early in the game, and also really make sure that our school committee members understand our need for granular information. Because I remember, I haven't even been on this committee for that long, but I remember a couple of years ago we had a Bolton rep on the budget and warrant subcommittee who really was able to get like a lot of the information early and share it, and that was kind of what was happening for everyone. And so I personally felt like I had a little bit more of a heads up about where things were headed sooner than I have the past couple of years. And I think it seems like we all would appreciate. Sorry, go ahead, Don.
Oh, no, I didn't want to interrupt that. I'd like to reinforce what you were saying, Brian. It was only just a few years ago that we did have a Bolton rep on the budget warrant subcommittee who was extremely active and would dive headfirst into that budget. And he understood the budget very, very well. And it was during that same time that the school committee chair, Lorraine Ramasco, one year actually did present a good portion of the budget at town meeting, and I'm sure asked the superintendent for some backup, but she actually led the discussion. So It's not that it's never been done. It's not that it can't be done. It's that it isn't done.
I see, Omid, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say like if we're gonna superintendent, I mean, and like the school committee, like reaching the hand across the aisle, having someone like assigned to that committee, hey, like he's working with you guys, so if you have any question, let us know. And also scheduling. I mean, honestly, like we're talking about a budget that's not even approved with the committees, which Bolton actually has, I just found out, no say in it right now because they don't have anyone in the budget committee of the school right now, subcommittee or whatever they call it. And I mean, we could have scheduled this a couple of weeks later to have more knowledge on it because I mean, we can't vote on anything. We're just here to hear the story.
Unfortunately, we don't get that much more even after the school committee votes for it. And our timeline is very tight.
It's just, I honestly, like, we heard that and everything's gonna change, especially with the COVID and with the school committee, and they just said Lancaster might have that. And again, but the other thing is though, like reaching out, like if we can assign someone in the committee to work with them, or like, hey, you don't have a personnel. If the school committee could be like, hey, I don't have a personnel to be my budget subcommittee, can you guys spare someone? I mean, we can try to do that. And at that point, yeah, that person gets off not voting in the committee on that budget, but at least it's working with the school committee.
You
with
need
the
to
budget.
remember, we don't get a vote. I mean, it's the school committee that's dealing with it. We as a town don't get a vote. Our reps, if someone's on that budget committee, gets a vote. I think we need to have more transparency in what's going on with this budget, because year after year, they miraculously find money for this or for that. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that they happen to find. The comment that Brian and I brought up earlier, there is pending, I guess, I don't know whether litigation or not, but the district's been sued by parents in Stowe because the district lost a case of parents fighting the district on sped education needs for their kids. The parents in Stowe spent $294,000 in legal fees fighting our district. And you have to assume that the district spent at least that much, if not more. So the district's already spent 300 grand. So this nonsense that Pat Maroney said there's only $50,000 is not really true. If the district is forced to pay the 294, we're talking $600,000 for one case. I'm aware of more of these cases going on. And I've been in communication with Ken Cleveland, who's covering some of this stuff. We believe that the legal expenses of the district are in 7 figures. And the first figure may not necessarily be a 1. So if the district is spending the money that we're giving to them in assessments to fight our own parents, that's not right. I mean, we got to figure out some way that
100% understand
figure out
you.
how to be a bit more accommodating.
I 100% understand you because I moved to Bolton last year, and guess what? I almost sued this Bolton schools, and my son ended up going to Stowe because he had an IEP, and the school literally said, I will not provide the services. And I could have just sued him at then and there for saying those words to my kid. But I didn't, and we just sent them to Stowe because they had a better program than Bolton. They had more stuff together more than Bolton did. So I'm all in that field. I understand how it's going on over there and that. I'm just saying, like, they're not working well with us. Like, I don't understand what the school committee is doing, because I mean, I sit through their meetings and stuff, and no one can ask questions. No one can do anything that's not part of like, and are they even authorized to work that way?
No, I agree. The school committee is not addressing any of this. They never addressed this.
I'm wondering if we can, the audit advisory committee that we've talked about before that's been kind of, laid fallow for a while. If you read the school district, it's not, it's vague enough that why couldn't that be a more robust committee? It's a member from each town. Why couldn't they have a little more say in what's happening?
My understanding from talking to someone who was on there is they tried to do that. They did that in the sense of when they did the audit, when they selected an auditor, they wanted the auditor to make recommendations for improving the accounting in the school district. And the school committee shot it down, saying that's not your business, that's our business. So, I think one of the things we've got to remember is the school budget isn't our budget. They don't like us looking over their shoulder saying, why are you spending money here? Why are you spending money here? What are you going to do this for? They don't like that.
I can appreciate that.
I can too. The problem is nobody can answer those questions. If my school committee, one of my school committee people can say, well, we're doing it because of this. Now, I may not agree with it, but at least I know somebody understands it. And I don't think anybody understands it.
Let me ask the advisory committee a question, because we still have a few more meetings left. Do you think it would be helpful for me to invite our 3 school committee members to come for just a short discussion so we can explain why it is important for at least one of them to really decide that the finances is going to be a focus for them? Because we do need at least one person from Bolton who decides that they are going to make it their objective to really understand the budget. And it just seems like right now we don't have somebody in that position, and maybe they would decide to do it if they understood from our perspective why it's necessary.
Brian, I think that would be very helpful. I think we can also reassure them that our intent is not to get into the weeds of their budget. It's really just to try to understand a little bit more about some of the big drivers to their budget. And I also think it's reasonable. I mean, this year is too late, but going forward, especially with a new superintendent, it's reasonable to say, we'd like to see a draft budget, say February 1st. And doesn't need to be complete. And we know it's not approved, but it at least gives us a sense of where they're going. And then they can update it 6 weeks later or something.
Well, that would be probably what they had at the school committee workshop. That's what I saw that they gave to Stowe. But yeah, to your point, it should go to the advisory committee or to Don or to the selectmen, here's where we stand. And these are kind of some of the things we're thinking about.
Right.
All right. Any other business before we adjourn? No. Well, thank you again, Bob and Stan, for joining. Always good to see you both. And if somebody else wants to make a motion to, and good to see you too, Don Lowe, even though you're hiding in the shadows. Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move the motion to adjourn. I second it.
All right, all in favor. Good night, folks. Thanks again.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.